Fort Myers, went to school here, and my family all still lives here. So now I moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina, where all the race teams are, so I can be a part of the racing in NASCAR. So I moved up there when I was 18 years old. Lived in an apartment at the race shop that I was driving for. So yes, I'm 25 years old. Like I said, this is these guys are with Homestead, Miami, so just across the state over there in Miami. We'll be racing coming up. That's why we're here. Just been talking with the news and talking with different people, and come see you guys. Went to Los Angeles Children's Hospital and saw kids our age, younger than me, y'all's age, and that they didn't get the fair shake at life, but they're fighting through it. So I wanted to come and just see you guys and talk to you for a minute and show you some stuff that they NASCAR and Speedway put together, just to kind of help explain NASCAR to you a little bit. So, does anybody have any questions before we talk about it? About NASCAR, anything you've ever seen, questions you have?
None of you guys have questions about cars and how fast they move or anything? I know y'all do.
Oh, God. What's your annual weight?
It's gotta start off with more softball questions. You can't go right to how much money he made. It's just something else about cars.
It's always changing. I'm an independent contractor, so I drive for different race teams. So it depends on how I'm able to negotiate a contract with each team.
How much horsepower does it have?
So the Xfinity Series has about 600, and the Cup Series has just over 700.
That's a lot.
It is, yeah. And then we run that all the way around the racetrack.
It's got a lot.
So like a street car might have.
Put it in perspective.
Yeah, I'd say a street car has 200 horsepower.
Oh,
So we get 4 miles to the gallon on gas. And our tires last about 50 laps, like for Homestead, they last about 50 or 60 laps. That's roughly 75, 80 miles.
The only good thing about 4 miles to gallon for him is he doesn't have to pay for that gas.
And I have guys that there's a pit crew, so there's 5 guys, and their whole job, their career is to pit the car. So their salary is to work out, to be as fit as they can be. And a lot of them are athletes, or just that they're just really good. They can get their hand-eye coordination. Nobody goes to school to be a NASCAR pit crew guy, but they realize they have what it takes. Their whole job, their whole career is to work out and then work on practicing pitting the car. So I'll go in, I'll drive the car for them and just back up and then come in and stop, and they'll take all the tires off, put new ones on, fill it up with gas in about 14 seconds.
Imagine that, 4 new tires, a full tank of gas, and get your windshield washed or whatever else happens.
Yeah, so on the windshield is actually a tear off, so we have different layers of plastic basically, and they can just rip it off and it looks like a brand new windshield, because the outer layer is what gets all the dirt, oil, whether there's gas that sprays on my car or whatever it is from the other cars. So we'll watch, is that loading?
Yes.
So you guys are learning science now. What Andrew will show you here in a little bit, what Ross will talk on a little bit, he's already touched on a little bit, is there are a lot of parallels between probably a lot of the things you're learning and not just NASCAR, but racing in general. In terms of how the car works, how to make a car go faster. I mean, Ross has been in several different cars already this year. 2 different cars in Xfinity, 1 in Cup, and I'm sure the sides, truck races too. So he's kind of experienced it all just this year alone. And I'm sure just with that, the technology and the science has been different in all of those vehicles.
In every truck. Yeah, in every car. So every team has a different philosophy on how they want to set the cars up. So on a NASCAR race car, there's thousands of different things you can adjust or change to a different size, a different weight. The springs can be all different sizes and strengths. So that's what really makes it, what makes NASCAR so competitive, is that different guys can be fast different weeks at different tracks based on how their setups are and the time they put into building the race car.
you can get started with the little presentation we have. Before we get into the science element of it and how all of that affects the cars that Ross drives, we have a little video to show you guys kind of what NASCAR and our track is all about. Has anyone ever been to a NASCAR race? We have a couple people.
I think he leads the way.
So we'll kind of show you what it's like when you get down. It's pretty exciting. So we'll put it in there.
Gentlemen, start.
And ladies,
Start your engines. Stand up.
cheer, because here,
The speed never stops.
The final race win of the season and a championship on the line.
not on this tracker for these fans that stand in the stand like you and do what fans do.
Roar!
With anticipation, bones shaken,
As the drivers become one with their car, the track.
as they take their positions and know there is no going back.
Because NASCAR is more than pistons and engines, but going the distance. Knowing to end the cycle any moment, things could change. Harlan for swerves, hard left, nothing left in his brain but victory.
California's Kevin Harvick does it.
In this race, the speed never stops.
But the need is always met, so we won't get tired, because tires leaving gray smoke in the mist is enough to make us go any distance.
No assistance needed, except in pit stop where the whole crew must move in 30 seconds tops. The thrill doesn't stop. At the edge of our seats, the track rumbling, replacing our heartbeats, matching up with the crowds that roar, the hope that's so inside our chest.
A green light, which fuels all those here in knowing that life is a race. So many seemingly endless laps, but they can't zap our joy and they won't get us down. And in this race, you'll be thrown curves, but just swerve. Keep your nerve and your eyes on the prize, and don't stop, because here,
The speed never stops. What other stadium do you know to rise from winds and rains, from a Category 5 hurricane to disaster, and yet still make people smile again? Come from nothing to having names like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon grace this stage, this track. Always moves forward. Because what seemed like a tragedy turned out to be the exact thing we would need to get this South Florida back on track. Two takes the lead. And the crowd feels the shaking of the engine matching the shaking of their knees. Our bodies filling with sheer excitement, pure enticement. Gripping tightly for every minute, knowing that even though you jockey for pole position, where you start is not always where you finish.
You are the 2014 Track Cup champion.
The city got a second chance. After such a catastrophe, the community needed something to revitalize the spirits, and with this track, we grew from fear to strength. A walk that suddenly turns into a run, a sun that shines down even after the fiercest of storms.
for even when driving in the rain, you must maintain a steady course.
Hands on the wheel.
A feel for where you want to go and who you want to be. So cheer along with the people who came here to be free. Feel the hearts in the crowd race against time, a line so finely walk between our past and what we can achieve.
The inaugural Halo 400 at Homestead goes to Tony Stewart.
It's all about the chase, all about the pace. Cause around here, someone steady almost never wins the race. Wait for that red light to blink. Take a deep breath and think. Under pressure like that, but we will never settle for second place, and we set the pace for first. Because this takes teamwork. In this pursuit of happiness, this race towards something great. And even in the face of fate, we'll still make history here in Victory Lane.
Holding an oversized bottle of champagne, and in that moment, pain doesn't exist.
This is what adrenaline feels like. Wait for that red light to blink. Take a deep breath and think that even in the darkest of nights, when the road's so slow and you feel so alone, switch on your headlights. Look out into the future. The future built here by so many people who spent years racing towards something great. So hang tight. It's gonna be one hell of a ride as the countdown is near. 5, fear turns to pride. 4, pride to courage. 3, stand up, get out of your seats. 2,
Make some noise.
1, and let the race begin.
So now who wants to go to the NASCAR race?
Encore performance.
You kind of get a little better idea of what NASCAR is about from there, and then this is our track. So you can see how big it is and how many people with seats back here. Oh, sorry. Back here, and then the different things we have in it. Pretty unique. We have a couple lakes and some different things. But I know you guys want to hear more from Ross than me, so I'll turn it over to him. Like Ross said, he's from Fort Myers in Alva, and actually grew up on a watermelon farm. So you can see this is one of his cars, and it's got a watermelon paint scheme.
Yeah.
Protect your melon.
Protect your melon. Yeah. So that's our Cup car. That was actually the first Cup race I ever ran. Was last year at Dover, Delaware, and that's Protect Your Melon. So it's a really easy concept, right? Buckling up, wearing your seatbelt. So we promote across the whole state of Delaware the whole first half of the year with that campaign for the state, just reminding people to buckle up. And then in the fall, we go back and race here in the fall. We run the same watermelon scheme, but it's use your melon, not for you guys, but reminding people of age to drive sober, use their melon, drive sober. So we tie all that in. I'm an 8th generation watermelon farmer. 8th generation farmer, 3 generations of watermelons. They grew cotton and tobacco and stuff in South Georgia generations ago. Great granddads, and finally hit on watermelons. It wasn't always a great life, but it's turned out to be good for us, and we found watermelons to be our spot in the ag community. So I started racing as a hobby, and I guess you can go to the next. Yeah, so getting into racing, this will kind of explain a little bit of what goes on with the race cars.
I think in the wind zone. Here's our car in the wind.
I'm NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson. Science and math are two of the most important parts of NASCAR racing. They help us understand how to make our cars as fast and as safe as possible. Three of the most important concepts in racing are drag, downforce, and drifting. Together, they'll make up the 3 Ds of speed. They'll show us how the science of aerodynamics helps NASCAR drivers attack the track at over 200 miles per hour. It's all about how air flows over, under, and against the race car. The air around us is made up of billions of individual molecules. You can't see them, but when you're driving through them at high speed, there's a resistance created. That's drag, and it has the effect of slowing the car down. Here's an easy example to help you understand drag. When you stick your hand out of a car window, the air pushes your hand backwards. If you raise your hand vertically against the air, it gets pushed back a lot. If you put your hand flat, it doesn't get pushed back nearly as much. We try to build our cars with the same idea. The more streamlined the shape, the more we can control the effects of drag. A certain amount of drag is important to have so we can keep the car under control, which keeps the racing both exciting and safe. When a car spins out, there are flaps on the roof and the hood that pop up and catch the air, keeping the car from flipping over and slowing it down before the wreck can get even worse. Which would really be drag. Now, let's talk about downforce. If there's one thing a driver always wants, it's more grip. Grip is how the tires stick to the pavement. The more grip we have, the less likely we are to spin out and the faster we can go. To get grip, we want to push the tires into the track as much as we can. So how do we do that without adding more weight to the car? We'll use the science of aerodynamics to create downforce. As the car passes through the air, the molecules above the car are slowed down at certain points, which creates an area of high pressure, pushing the car down. The air under the car is not slowed down, which creates an area of low pressure. This has the effect of sucking the car down into the racetrack. The combination of these high and low pressure areas above and below the car creates downforce, and as a result, the car has more grip. The engineers that build our cars spend a lot of time working to shape them to take advantage of the physics of airflow, using downforce to keep us driving around the track as fast as possible. And who doesn't love that? Have you ever watched a race and seen one car right behind the other, sometimes with barely an inch between them? Why would we want to risk everything being so close to the other car? The answer is drafting. When cars are spread out on the track, each car has to break through the air on its own, creating drag. When two cars are close together on the track, they're able to go faster because of drafting. The car in front breaks the air, leaving a pocket behind that the second car can drive through with much less air resistance. A pocket of broken air sucks the two cars towards each other. Together, the two cars act like one big car. With drafting, two cars can go faster than one car by itself, by as much as 5 miles per hour. And when you get a bunch of cars together in the draft, everyone gains a ton more speed, and there's nothing cooler than speed. That's it, the 3 Ds of speed: drag, downforce, and drag. They are the three key ways we use science, technology, engineering, and math to make fast and exciting racing for NASCAR fans all around the world. If you want to learn more about the science of racing, check out all the cool games and hands-on experiments at accelerationnation.com.
All right, so that was Jimmy Johnson. He's the winningest championship driver of our era. Anybody know how many championships he's won in NASCAR? He's tied with two other guys for the most ever. Can I take a guess?
13.
Not that many. 7? Yeah, 7.
Oh.
Yep, so him and Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty are all tied for 7. That's the most by a long ways over anybody else. So he's the only one that's done it in the modern era. He's still racing today, so I race against him, and he passes me all the time. Really good, really good. Yeah. So all that goes into the race cars these days. So there was a time when we didn't know what the downforce was. We didn't know why stuff like that happened. The doors actually on stock cars or like road cars on the road, the doors will actually be kind of curved at the bottom maybe, or just whatever works for the body lines of the car. And that's how the race cars used to be. They used to be curved really high off the ground. And they started realizing that they straighten those out, make them flat, make them all perpendicular to the ground and go all the way down and almost touch it or drag the ground a little bit. The closer and the flatter they could get all that, and then maybe even bow it the opposite way where the middle is in and top and bottom are out. Especially on the right side, that's all just downforce, and then there's, on top of what they said in there, there's side force, so there's air going over the top, there's also side force, there's air pushing on the side, and that's all stuff we figured out over time through just really smart people being, their job and their career was to make race cars go as fast as they could. So that's all just evolutions of the sport. They could probably even update the video up to side force as a new way we're figuring out in the last couple of years to make the race cars go faster. So there's a lot of smart people on the race teams. That's their job every day. They wake up and that's what they love to do is work on race cars, but figure out ways to make them go faster.
You guys have any questions about anything from the video that you want to ask?
Even though there's all this safety stuff, was there ever an accident?
There has been, yeah. People have been hurt, died in it. We've tried to make it as safe as we could. I wear we wear 3-layer fire suits, fireproof shoes, gloves, full face helmet that's fireproof. Fire is a big concern, but then also now, just from the impacts, we have what we call safe walls. It used to just be concrete, so you imagine hitting the concrete wall, how that would hurt. Now they have steel. They put steel walls on the side of the concrete that we're on, and foam in the middle. It'll crush and absorb the energy that we have when we do hit them. So that's been a big help, even just for concussions. It seems crazy how you get a concussion in a car, but a wall and change direction and your body has to go through that change in direction as well. So our helmets and all the safety stuff for our headrests and our seats are actually custom made for us. And I'm the only one that can fit in my seat. It's custom made for me, folded in. I wear a 9-point safety harness. So there's 3 sub belts, 2 lap belts, and 4 shoulder belts. So 2 on my shoulders, and then 2 that go up and over those same belts that hold a Hans device in, is what we call it. And that's to keep my head from moving more than 2 inches away from where I'm sitting. When I'm sitting in the car, it can only go 2 inches forward. So it takes over 2, almost 3 minutes just for me to get in the car and get everything hooked up. And all those belts hooked up, and I run a fresh air hose because we're breathing in. There's fumes in the car, if not. So carbon monoxide is another issue we have. So we run carbon monoxide filters. So I'm actually working through that now with my team. I feel like I need some help there. I feel like I'm getting too much. I'm breathing in too many fumes in the races. So we're trying to figure out is there a better filter on the market. We haven't found it yet, but I've actually had quite a bit of issues with that. So And other guys have too recently, so it's something we're all trying to figure out. So there is still a scary side to it, but there's really smart people trying to help make it better, make it safer. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So I know what drafting is, so would slipstream be the same thing as drafting?
Same thing, yeah.
When did they start using that term?
It's just different forms of motorsports use different terminology. Slipstream isn't, we don't really use it in NASCAR as much. Formula One does and IndyCar does. And some motorcycle stuff. Where'd you hear the term slipstream?
I forgot the name of the race, but it's a 24-hour motorcycle race.
Yep, that's what it says. It's big in the motorcycle world. Yep. Yes, that's his sponsor. He's sponsored by Lowe's, the home improvement store. So he's a 7-time champion. Lowe's is actually, I guess, it was the longest running full-time sponsor we had in the sport. So they've been in the sport for 20 years, maybe, something like that. And they're actually, this is their final year with Jimmy, so you got to find it. So next year, his stomach will be covered up with something else. So our suits are on top of being fireproof. They're covered in all of our sponsor logos. It's like my hat, my shirt, the visitor logo. But yeah, so we're walking and moving billboards at 200 miles an hour is what drives our sport, because people watch it. They want to see the racing. So then companies advertise with us. They could have a billboard on the side of I-75 here in town, or they could have my race car as their billboard racing on TV.
So you're basically sponsored by Flex Seal?
I am. Yep. You know Phil Swift?
That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. So yeah, he's go to his Christmas party every year, and he tells me I did a lot of damage to the race car every year.
That's also what makes this sport so different from all others. You know, if you're watching a baseball game, you're watching, just say, the Boston Red Sox, it says Red Sox, right? If you're watching a race car driver, right, they rely on sponsorships. That's their lifeblood. That's part of the reason why, Ross is wearing, the watermelon hat and Flex Seal, whatever, because, not just does he rely on his sponsors, but also his sponsors, right, rely on him to get the word out about their product. And so, if you ever see an interview with a driver, I hate to say it, I didn't see your Victory Lane interview, but at the end of any interview, every good driver is going to say, and I want to thank, and they run through a list of like 5 sponsors at least, and they've got it all memorized. It's like they rehearse it every day.
So it comes natural once you've worked with a company for a little bit of time, that it will come natural in an interview. Being a farmer, I wanted to bring watermelons into if I ever won, I knew I always wanted to do that. So, granted, I'm 25 years old. I started in NASCAR when I was 18, and I lost every race that entire time. So it was a couple hundred races, and year after year kept losing. So when we won in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, when I got out, I had it planned where they would bring me a watermelon, and I stood up and held it. And held it over my head in Victory Lane, and then we went out on the front stretch, and I busted it right on the start-finish line, just to bring watermelons into it, just because it's what my family does, it's what I love, it's what I'll ultimately do one day after racing is done. I'll probably grow and sell watermelons. Granted, I'll be way behind because my career path, since I was 18 years old, has been 100% racing. I want to push this as hard as I can. It's what I love to do. It's what I'm passionate about. And I enjoy the business side of it and what all goes into building fast race cars and working with engineers and mechanics that are actually building the car, welding them together, running the computer program that's telling them what parts and pieces we need to run. So that's what I enjoy about the racing side. Other than just getting to go fast on a racetrack, there's a whole business side and a whole work side to it that's actually really cool.
Any other questions? You stay hydrated.
Lots of watermelon. Watermelon all day, every day. Yeah, so that's a way I could get a sponsor plug in, right? So somebody asks me that on camera, I'm gonna say watermelon. And people might think it's cheesy, but it's actually the way the world works. And that really is the case. I do eat a lot of watermelon. But yeah, in the car I do a 50-50 mix of Gatorade and water. So it's basically like G2, but I don't know why they just physically mix it in a bottle. And then I have, if I'm struggling with heat, or if it's gonna be hot, we know I have a hydration powder they can put in. It'll bump it way up and kind of just overload my body just to get me through the race. Just if I'm really struggling. We're trying to do that. We don't do that all the time if we don't have to. And other than that, it's just a lot of water. So I've cut out soda. I don't drink. I guess it was when I moved to North Carolina. So I was 18 years old. I would eat anything I wanted to. I would drink anything, sodas. And got talking with some guys, and they were talking to me about hydration. And they're like, if you want to just do something easy, just cut out soda. All Coke, Pepsi, doesn't matter. Just drink water. And so luckily I'm okay with that. So I've done that. So I drink sweet tea. I'm not gonna lie. I don't apologize for drinking sweet tea. But yeah, so I haven't had a soda a couple years now. Now I want one all of a sudden.
So, I know you guys got to get out of here real soon for dismissal, but we brought along our pace car, so I'm going to take you guys down to see it and get it.
Yeah.
So we can go ahead and sign up. We're going to go to the
She had a question back there.
What's that?
Young lady had a question back there.
Which one?
Just walking this way.
What's that?
Right there with the earrings.
I know they use amber lights.
She had a question. You had a question?
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask what places have you raced.
Oh, all of them.
Yeah, all of them. So we just raced in Talladega, Alabama last weekend, and I'll go to Kansas this weekend, and then to Texas, and then Virginia, and we raced in California, and then over in Miami is our final race.
Have you ever raced in Tennessee?
Yeah, and Bristol. Yeah. You ever been to Bristol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Coliseum.
Yeah.
He may know you're into a lot of them.
You guys just use ambers for your pace cars or what?
The lights, yeah. You'll see the lights downstairs. Yeah.
So you guys
Let's go see it.
Amber lights?
Yeah. You'll see it down there. We're gonna flash the lights.